If you've been posting content but you're not seeing any impressions, leads, calls, and more importantly, closed deals, it's probably not your fault. The reason why I say this is because a lot of people post content on the wrong platform for their specific offer without even realizing it. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Derek Wyn. I own outlierfounder.com. We've made $1.8 million for our clients so far this year. And one of the key reasons how we were able to do this is by identifying the right channel market fit, which means posting content on the right platform where your buyers actually hang out at. And by doing so, you will have the highest likely chance of getting the highest quality lead on the call. Just like how our client, who had been posting on Instagram for 8 months straight with 0 sales, but when he turned his attention to a different platform, he made $600,000 in 3 months. Or how I had been posting on Twitter for a whole year just because I see other people in my space doing it, only to find out that another platform generates me 3 times the number of qualified leads. And so in today's video, I want to show you how to actually find your channel market fit so that you don't have to waste months or even a whole year like I did creating content that's never going to sell in the first place. Now, before I get into this, I want you to really get rid of this belief, because this single thing has been holding me back for the longest while, which is I need to be everywhere. Everybody tells you to do it. You'll make a ton of money, distribution this, distribution that, whatever. I can tell you from my own lived experience that is just completely false. It's just BS. I want you to imagine 2 scenarios, okay? 1, you're trying to sell ice in Alaska and you got a team of A players, like top-notch people, Alex Hormozy, Cole Gordon, whatever, that does your marketing. Number 2, you sell water in hot summer Texas, Dallas, and you got a team of marketing interns, people from college, doing your marketing. Now, for both case scenarios, who do you think wins? It's most likely going to be the people selling water in hot summer Texas, Dallas, right? Because there's actual demand and a place with buyers there. And so the same concept applies to a personal brand that sells. You show up in the right place at the right time so that people can actually buy your stuff. And so you just need to tailor content to cadence your buyers where they actually are in the market. And once you do that, you focus on one platform only. And just like my coach says, and other people like Hormozy, Cole Gordon, or whatever, they always say that you can easily scale to 1 mil per month using just one channel. And another reason why I'm quite opposed against mass distribution is because it creates this false sense of change for your business, but not so much in your bank account, because it gives you a feeling that you're making a change in your industry. But the main point of content was never about getting impressions, right, my friend? It's always about getting the highest quality lead on a sales call who closes at your highest price point. And so you only do that by having the right channel market fit. Now, how do we actually identify the right platform to start posting? So channel market fit comes down to 2 main things. It's 1, your offer, and 2, your buyer's awareness level. And there's actually an axis that describes this perfectly. If you're not familiar with this, it basically describes market sophistication level versus buyer awareness, where the y-axis talks about the awareness level of your buyers and the x-axis talks about the sophistication level of your buyers. If you don't know what sophistication means, it basically means how skeptical are your buyers towards your service? How much have they heard about your service, and what kind of offers have they heard in the market, and how educated they are? And by using this axis, you can identify exactly where your business actually lies at. And the location in which your offer sits determines exactly what you post, where you post, and how you even talk about your service in the first place. Now, I'm going to be breaking down 2 case scenarios so that it applies to whatever service that you are currently running right now. So case number 1, if your buyers are not solution aware, this applies to super niched services such as, let's say, cybersecurity or AI recruiting or boutique agencies or boutique consulting agencies and so on and so forth, right? You cannot just talk about stuff like AI recruiting and hope that people are going to be interested in. Imagine you're a $10 million founder, right? You're your own prospect. You wake up and do you imagine yourself being like, fuck, I need AI recruiting today. I need to find an agency that installs AI recruiting for my enterprise. Do you think that happens? Probably not, right? That's just because your service is so unknown in your market that if you start posting content about your service specifically, you're not going to get any traction or reach at all. So it just makes sense, right? Another example is you can't just post about code and hope that SaaS founders are going to come to you. If you're like let's say a $5 million SaaS founder, you don't just wake up and say, fuck, I need to find the perfect course video of a Python tutorial to install these AI systems into my SaaS. That doesn't work. They have their own tech teams. What they care most about is getting users to their SaaS platform, right? And so when it comes to super niche services or solution unaware prospects, you lead with the problem and the outcome. You actually talk about the outcome that your mechanism brings instead of just about your mechanism, if that makes sense. Now, case number 2, if your service is already super well known or super saturated in this case, for example, email marketing ads, cold email, so on and so forth. Using the same example from earlier, you're your own prospect, $10 million founder. You wake up and think, fuck, I need retention marketing today. I need to increase my LTV for my business. Therefore, I need to find an email marketing agency who does it well. That happens. That actually happens because email marketing, ads, cold email, whatever, these services are always in demand for the last couple of decades. And so the trick to creating content for these kind of services, really the only thing that you need to do is just post more about your mechanism. It's very contradictory to case number 1, but really, because there's so much demand and traffic and education towards these services already, the only thing that you need to do is just post more about the mechanism and prove why you're the best in the industry. So let's take this channel, for example, Maxwell Copy. The reason why he doesn't talk about, hey, this is why you should do email marketing, but he instead talks about, hey, this is why I'm the best at email marketing and look at my stuff, is because his industry is already very well versed and educated on the fact that they need email marketing. And so that's really all you need to do if your service is super well known already. And so just to break it down on simplicity's sake, really the only thing that you need to do when it comes to this is go heavy on the takes, heavy on the case studies, and really talk about what people have tried and why it hasn't worked out for them. So for example, this channel, Sarah, she talks about why their ad creative hooks are not working, what her experience is or what her expertise is when it comes to consumer psychology. She breaks down exactly what people have been trying with their ad creatives that might have been wrong and why they should approach this method instead. She doesn't talk so much about, hey, ad creatives are the best, you should definitely run ads for your business. She doesn't need to do that because there are actual buyers out there who are looking for ad services right now. And so really, one of the best approaches when it comes to creating content in a super saturated industry is just really hammer down and go against the industry standard, prove what you understand, hell, even go against your competitors and explain why they're wrong and why your stuff actually works based on your experience. And if you're sitting right now and you're still wondering, okay, my service is super special, I don't really know where it fits in the graph, let me just give you an example using my own service so that you can use the frameworks and do it for yourself. So for my case, I'm selling YouTube to B2B companies, which is a service that's very unaware in my market, but has a substantial amount of competitors in my space. The challenge here is everybody in my space is already talking about lead generation using YouTube for course sellers or coaching programs. And so faced with this kind of challenge, what do we actually do? My buyers are already unaware of my stuff, but there are competitors in the first place. So what I do instead is just lead with the problem and the outcome. I talk about revenue generation. I talk about pipeline. I talk about enterprise sales, the things that I can do that most of my competitors cannot. And YouTube just happens to be the mechanism. And so this separates me from everyone else in my space because I'm not talking about everything YouTube anymore, like gaining subs, views, likes, whatever. I talk about what my buyers, B2B founders doing like 100K per month actually care about. And as a result, I've hopped on calls with multi-million-dollar founders who already know, like, and trust me and know me as the YouTube guy who does it for high-ticket services really well. And so again, the core lesson is this. You need to know where you are in the market, in the access, based on your offer and your buyer awareness level. And then you can position your brand according to that instead of wasting more months on end creating content that's never going to sell. So now that we know how to position ourselves and what type of content we should be creating for our businesses, the last question here is just where? Which platform do we actually post content on to get the most number of sales, and how do we even find it? So instead of going down like a long laundry list, the whole playbook that we implement for our clients, let me just tell you how I found my best platform. So a year ago, I assumed most of my buyers were on Twitter because my competitors were posting on that platform all the fucking time. And I thought it just made sense to also post on YouTube about my YouTube service. It's just common sense, right? And what do you know? Some sales now and there, but it was just never consistent. I wanted predictable pipeline coming from content. And when I looked at other YouTube agencies and what they were trying to do, most of them were also struggling to get reach on YouTube. And it's ironic since we're supposed to be good at YouTube, but we just can't seem to figure out YouTube for ourselves. And this is when I realized that there was something seriously wrong with how I approach our own content for the company. And so I just did what every natural founder would ever do. I went back to the drawing board and really looked at the data. I tracked where my best leads were coming from. And I can promise you this, every single highest quality lead, the people who are doing 100K per month, 250K per month, hell, like I even booked a call with this guy who did $50 million per year. The people who took the most action, had the shortest sales cycle, and paid the most, every single one of them came from only one place. It's LinkedIn outbound. You know, it's very interesting because I'm supposed to be the content expert, and yet LinkedIn outbound has yielded us the most results. And it just made sense because outbound allows you to pick who you talk to and actually educate them through the DMs, as opposed to relying on people to discover you through the content. After that, I just restructured everything about our marketing, and LinkedIn basically became our primary acquisition channel, and the content that I was producing on LinkedIn just purely became a nurturing tool to warm up my DM conversations. And YouTube, funnily enough, became my sales enablement tool that I use with my outbound campaigns that I send through my DMs to really build that trust. And so after that, after realizing what I need to do as the best course of action to grow my company, I just stopped caring about impressions or engagement from the content entirely. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should quit everything and do LinkedIn outbound. That's like the last thing I want to do, nor am I preaching any channel or platform at all. The lesson here is just pick a channel that's already proven by your own data. The best source of data for any high-ticket B2B service is almost going to always be in your sales calls. And that's exactly where I found that LinkedIn outbound works the best for us. And if you do this, you won't waste more time and money into content that's never going to sell at all. To me, as painful as it is to have put in so much energy into platforms like Twitter or YouTube or whatever, Twitter just looked right to me at first because all of my competitors were there. But when I actually looked at who was engaging with that content, there was really barely any of my ideal prospects. And even when I switched to LinkedIn content, the holy land for B2B, the sophisticated buyers that I was targeting just didn't really care about my service at all. They weren't the type of people to just wake up and think, fuck, I need YouTube in my company. That's just because my market was just not aware enough about the solution that I provide. And so it really doesn't matter how good your content is if you're posting on the wrong platform with the wrong type of content. And I can say this from lived experience that whenever I try to post on Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube, and as a content expert who's generated millions for my own clients, nothing will work until your own data tells you to. And so if you want to start closing more deals from your personal brand, just make sure to walk away from this video understanding this. You need to stop looking at your competitors, comparing yourself to people who are ahead of you, what they're posting, and just really look at who is actually engaging, if they're even worth your attention to create content for. You need to find influencers your buyers already follow and identify which platform those influencers are already on. That's quite literally a signal from the market, and that's how I found my own platform. And finally, but arguably the most important thing, is go back to your last 10 to 15 sales calls. Find out where those leads actually came from, because there's really no other way to figure this out besides what the market has directly told you. And once you find your channel, really structure your content to match where your offer is in the access. So again, if your buyers are solution aware, just post about how great you are at the thing. But if your buyers are not solution aware, just like my service, post about how great you are at solving a problem. Both ways can absolutely get you discovered, build trust, and convert. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe and peace.